Hello, this league is going to be exciting for many people, or at least be an interesting journey, myself included. Now, I'm planning on leaguestarting something that I haven't thought I'll do prior to this patch, and this is Flicker Strike. As you can see, the name of the video is not Flicker Strike Leaguestarter or Flicker Strike Build Guide. This video is made for people who either played the skill before and have an experience in terms of how to scale the build and what to do with this, or for someone who had thought about leaguestarting this skill, they find this video and they can utilize some bits and pieces for themselves. I'm not recommending this to new players for plethora reasons, but I will highlight just few. Usually this skill shines after a decent budget invested into it, or if you're one of those psychos who league starts the skill every league, in which case you probably don't need me telling what to do. Second, you would wanna play this build at least once before to make sure you actually enjoy this playstyle and it doesn't make it easy. And now that 99% of the people who are interested in this are gone, let's do a quick overview of the things that I've done here. First of all, Ascendancy, I took Slayer, it's a balanced option. Let's say you get way more max endurance charges, because it's bound to your maximum frenzy charges. You're getting fine damage from Ascendancy, and on top of this you get Overleech. Do not take Wall Pact, because with Wall Pact all your leech will be instant, so there is nothing to overleech. The other option that I was thinking about is Berserker. You are faster, both because of leech charges and attack speed from Rage, but you don't really get that much more damage, and you're becoming even more of a paper. This is a Phys plus Impale version. There are quite a lot of Impale nodes on the tree now available along the path. Hatred got nerfed, the more damage part is gone. I still think that Elemental Flicker can be better with bigger investment, but that's not what I'm doing here right now. I'm using Axe. If your idea is to path on the right side near the Fatal Blade cluster, then Sword should look more interesting, and you will most likely be some sort of elemental version. Axes give you more physical damage than swords if you have equivalent stats on the weapon, and I'm running Flash Ripper. It has a very good implicit, 1.5 crit chance suffixes as an implicit. Sure, the 1.25 attacks per second is not too great, but it should be better than the other options. That's what X might be interesting for some people, but it has a very bad base crit, so we don't have to spend more ascendancy points to fix this. And another reason I'm going with X, because some of the clusters were moved around and Feller of Foes is now along the way, and this cluster is just pretty strong. It gives a lot of increased damage, and it gives accuracy, and on top of this, quite decent crit multi. This build gains 5 rage on hit, so with 0.5 second cooldown in mind, that's 10 rage per second. Should be pretty good. We're getting 3 on the passive tree from the Rage cluster and 2 from Axe Mastery. Now there are some conditional things that I'm okay with, but you have to keep in mind. The way I will generate endurance charges before firewalls is endurance charge on stun. With 7 charges it's 28% more damage multiplier, which is a solid gem when you also consider that you get quite useful utility. And the way I get Fortify is Fortify on stun mod from Perseverance. And these mods are pretty good for mapping, but not so much against bosses, because you will have quite a hard time to stun them. If you're not okay with this, you would wanna swap away from them. Most likely you will switch to Replica Ferals to generate endurance charges, and then you can either spend some points on the tree to get Fortify, or you get Fortify support instead, depending on what you can utilize more, 5 passive points or a support gem. Even with this gear, Abysses is a pretty big upgrade in theory. It gives from 35 to 40% more damage, but in my opinion there are just too many things you will have to fix if you decide to run Abysses. You will have to solve your resistances and potential attribute requirements, and also you're losing allergy implicit, so you're losing mana cost, which is quite a rough thing after the update, and the reservation, so you will not be able to fit an aura. An interesting thing is that the lethal pride I use near the savagery will affect 8 notables, potentially 9 if you want to go with Master of the Arena. And with what I've tested, you can gain up to potential 25% more damage, so watch out for that. And then there are some debatable moments that I'm still not sure about which one to choose. There are some pros and cons against all of them. In theory, if you had a good way to generate endurance charges, maybe you're fine with pressing Endurance Cry, or Endurance Charge on stun is a good enough and your shot generator for you. You can pick up replacing Feral's Fur and go in for new armor bases and get quite a decent physical mitigation. Now, since we're using an axe, in theory you can use trauma support, and on its own trauma support can be the best support in terms of damage. In my setup it can be up to like 80% more damage if you can maintain maximum trauma stacks. Realistically saying, you will think about maintaining 80% of stacks or so, and this way it's still the best support. But there are two problems. First of all, you will have to sustain the trauma, and believe me, on a build like this where you don't have that much investment into good defenses, it's a big task. Second of all, it conflicts with multi-strike. The multi-strike works, it repeats 2 hits, or 3 if you're using the weakened version, and these repeats do not trigger a lot of effects, such as trauma, so you'll get trauma every 3 hits or 4 hits depending on the version of the multi-strike, and yeah, not too great. Also, for some people who think that multi-strike doesn't work on Flicker Strike anymore, I would have to clarify that travel skills and movement skills are different, and you can see the list of travel skills here. Essentially nothing changed for multi-strike because this was a property of the travel skills before, and now they just moved it to multi-strike to be less confusing, I guess. And the last thing that I'm still debating, in this setup I have Perseverance, and I'm thinking between Grace and Pride. If you only count the initial effect, it's like 10% more damage than Grace, and having a lot of avoidance against attacks can be pretty valuable. Obviously, if you get Watcher's Eye with +2 impales and then you count the maximum effect of Pride is just miles ahead, but it's still something I'm not sure of. Okay, if for some unknown reason you decided to still do what I do, you can see my projected day 1 setup. All of the items except for maybe Abysses will probably be very cheap because they're like tier 4, tier 5 uniques, and then the rare gears just there to fix resistances and whatnot, so it should be pretty obtainable. This is the damage on a 6-leg setup, but obviously there are some padding stats. As you can see, it should be manageable for day 1 setup. As for leveling from campaign setup, I will not think anything because honestly you can play a lot of different things. You can go Spectral Throw, you can go Sunder, and the goal there is basically to pick up the points that you will use in your early to mid-end game setup, so then you don't have to respec too much, and then jump into Flicker whenever you feel like. As for me, I think about switching to Flicker around about Merclap after I potentially farmed it a bit, so then I get some currency to spend, and then I can respec some points. I will get Terminus S 100%, I'll go for Tribal Fury to get Splash and then pick up a Mastery for +1 strike, because as it is for many strike skills, the difference between having additional strikes and not having is very significant. And that's it for this video. I'm not planning on uploading a lot of stuff about Flicker Strike. Maybe once I get beyond this setup in an endgame. I played with expensive Flicker Strikes before, and I know that this setup looks okay, pretty good, but it's very far from the ceiling. So once I reach that point, there will be stuff to talk about. And also once in a blue moon, I can stream my PoE gameplay, and if you're interested in it, you can check it out. And I hope if anyone decides to follow what I do, they have a reserve option, just in case it will go pretty badly. But yeah, otherwise, thanks for watching again, and have a good one.